Hello, and welcome to this presentation, Measuring AM Modulation Depth with the Rohde and Schwarz RTM3000. In this short presentation, we'll show you how to use an RTM3000 series oscilloscope to measure the modulation depth of an AM signal. This presentation assumes a basic understanding of amplitude modulation and AM modulation depth. If you're not already familiar with these topics, or if you'd like a brief refresher, you might want to watch the presentation Understanding Amplitude Modulation before beginning this presentation. To measure AM modulation depth, we'll be using the RTM in XY mode, which means we'll have input on two channels and two connections between our AM signal source and the RTM. We connect channel 1 of our scope to the low-frequency modulating signal. Channel 2 is connected to the radio frequency modulated signal. To enter XY mode on the RTM3000, press the Applications button and then select XY from the list of applications. Next, be sure that both Channel 1 and Channel 2 are enabled. You can configure each channel manually, but in most cases you can simply press Auto Set to configure them both automatically. Assuming we've connected and configured everything correctly, our XY mode display should look something like this. On the right, we can see the two channels. Channel 1 is the low-frequency modulating signal, a 1000 Hz sine wave in this example. Channel 2 is the modulated RF signal. We can use these two displays to verify that the proper signals are present on each of our two channels. We can now use the so-called trapezoid method to calculate AM modulation depth M. The first step is measuring the length of the two vertical edges of the trapezoid using cursors. We'll call the length of the right edge A. We then measure the length of the left edge and call this B. Using a very simple equation and substituting in the measured values gives an AM modulation depth of 29.5%. Let's end with a short review. This presentation showed how AM modulation depth can be measured on an oscilloscope using the trapezoid method. This method requires the scope to be in XY mode with channel 1 connected to the low-frequency modulating signal and channel 2 connected to the modulated RF signal. This should produce a trapezoid on the screen. We then measure the two vertical edges of the trapezoid and use our simple equation to calculate the AM modulation index or depth. This concludes our presentation, Measuring AM Modulation Depth with the Rohde and Schwarz RTM3000. If you'd like to learn more about oscilloscopes or AM modulation depth measurements, please see the links in the video description. Thanks for watching.